Bismillah, alhamdulillah, sallallahu alaihi wa sallam, proceed. Today, inshallah, will be once again a departure from the routine. The routine is al-Arba'un al-Nawawiyya. Today we were supposed to go over hadith number 12. So I'll tell you about the hadith, and then we will move into the main topic of today, which is a little bit different. But we are joined by some of our young men and women who have not been with us from the beginning of the series. So a little bit of a departure today is actually warranted and justifiable. So bear with us. But the hadith, anyway, the 12th hadith of al-Arba'in al-Nawawiyya, or the 40 hadith of Imam Nawawi, and we said before they are 42, is hadith Abi Hurairah radiallahu anhu. It's collected by Tirmidhi. So Tirmidhi is the collector of the hadith. The main reporter is the Sahabi who reported it from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So usually these are the two names that you hear. The actual compiler who compiled all of this, which is a Tirmidhi, and those compilers, they started by the generation, writing of the Sunnah started during the time of the Sahaba, ridwanullahi alayhim. We know that Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As used to write, and he had Sahif al-Sadiqa, Ali ibn Abi Talib wrote, and other Sahaba wrote the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. But writing in the sense of writing books started during the generation of Imam Hanif and Imam Malik. Imam Malik's Muwatta is the first basically bona fide hadith collection book that is still present with us and known to us. And Imam Malik, for those who may not know, was born in the year 92 after Hijrah. Imam al-Bukhari was born in 192 after Hijrah. Imam al-Tirmidhi was born in about 201 after Hijrah. So the collector then he compiled the hadith. Then he would take it from a reporter, who would take it from another reporter until the Sahabi who is reporting from the Prophet ﷺ. Any break in the chain of the reporters would compromise the authenticity of the hadith. Any interruption in the chain would compromise the authenticity of the hadith. They have to be all connected, and they have to be all trustworthy reporters. So Tirmidhi reported from Abi Hurairah radiallahu anhu that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Min husni islami al-mar' tarkuhu ma la ya'ni." Min husni Islam al-mar', it's a sign on someone's being a good Muslim. Tarkuhu ma ya'ni is leaving alone that which does not concern him. Is leaving alone that which does not concern him. It's a beautiful hadith, and we don't want to do it injustice, so we will not go over it today. We will defer it until next week, inshallah. But what is it that we want to talk about today? And I truly would appreciate our young brothers and sisters to basically interrupt whenever they want and ask as many questions as they want. But the topic that we wanted to talk about today is more, basic, or if you want to use like a more complex word, existential. It is more foundational topic, which is, do you think that someone who is on a bus ride and does not know the destination of that bus, do you think this person could enjoy the bus ride if he does not know the destination? Do you think he would enjoy the bus ride, even if he was with friends and they are having fun, but he does not know where the bus is going? Do you think that he would be able to really fully enjoy the trip, the bus ride? Who would think that he would be able to enjoy it? Yeah, no, it really is, it is, no matter what, like every once in a while, he will be laughing and singing and clapping and looking out the window and so on, but every once in a while he will pause and say to himself, where's this thing going? Like, where are we going? What's the ultimate destination? Particularly if the matter is a risky matter. They are on this bus and they don't know if at the end of the trip the bus would actually reach a good final destination or fall off the cliff. It becomes even more concerning. So if they are on the bus ride and it's a long journey and everybody's happy and clapping and laughing and singing and doing whatever else, bullying others and stuff. But then every once in a while, he sort of gets this moment of reality check, like, where is this thing going? Where is it taking us? So people in this life who don't have the answers to these three questions that I will tell you of now, will never be able to enjoy life itself, let alone the hereafter. They will never be able to fully enjoy their life here in this world, let alone the hereafter. What are those three questions?
Who we are, why we're here, where we're going.
Yeah. Where did we come from? And why are we here? And where are we going? Those are the three most philosophical existential questions I ever came across the human mind. Where did we come from? What are we here for? And where are we going? Now, the idea here is, the more certainty you have in the answers to these three questions, the more tranquility, the more peace of mind, the more serenity, the more holiness, wholesomeness, holism you will have. You will always be shattered and fragmented and torn apart unless you're comfortable with the answers to those three questions. Where did we come from? What are we here for? And where are we going? So now, we're all Muslim, right? Why do we have to talk about this issue? Because we should know the answers, right? All of us know the answers. Where did we come from? Allah created us, right? What are we here for? We're here for the worship of Allah, right? And where are we going? We will be resurrected to the hereafter, and it will be either Jannah or not. We're talking about the human kind. It will be either Jannah or not. That's the final destination. And it depends on what we do here. But the issue here is, it is not something that you know once and that's it. Like you sit on it and you came to know, we were created, Allah created us, we're here to worship Allah, and then we're going back to Him for reckoning, for hisab, to be held accountable for our deeds, and to be destined either Jannah or not. This is an issue that we have to think about every moment of our lives. Because without being conscious of this issue, without this issue being in the forefront of your mind, you lose track. Why is it that some of us commit so many sins? Why is it that some of us do not come to the masjid? Why is it that some of us do not pray? Why is it that some of us disobey Allah knowingly, that this is an act of disobedience? Why is it that some of us don't even care? They're not even here. They're not really concerned. They're not thinking about it. So someone who disobeys Allah knowingly, but then he has a little bit of discomfort, in his heart, reluctance. He still has something, that is making him uncomfortable with the act of disobedience. But even some of us have no concern whatsoever, have no discomfort. You know, they are not thinking about the issue to begin with. Even though they have come to realize at one point, they came to know at one point that Allah created us, or at least they were taught that Allah created us, and we're here to worship Him, and we shall return to Him, and then be destined to the Jannah or not. But this has not become a belief. This, you know, we are dealing with this as like a piece of information, not a belief. And if it is a belief, it's a belief of the mind. It's an intellectual one. It is not a belief of the heart. It's not a moving belief. It is basically an intellectual conviction that is really not consequential at all. Very inconsequential, because it didn't sit in one's heart. It is not invited by us. We don't invite thought concerning these questions or their answers. Because if we really have the right answers, would you expect us to fall behind? Would you expect our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to not be at its best, at all times? You know that you're here to worship Allah. You know that at the end of this journey, which you don't know when it ends, you will return to Allah, and you know that the stakes are so high. We were talking about, you know, eternal bliss versus eternal torment. Na'imun abadi, azabun abadi, jannatun khalidina fiha, abada, narun khalidina fiha. You know, the stakes are very high. So basically, we need to go back and revisit those questions and keep on answering to ourselves those questions and keep on contemplating the answers. Because once the answers sink down in our minds and in our hearts, we will be transformed individuals. You know, once the Sahaba came to a solid conviction concerning those answers, they became the generation that transformed the human history, that changed the course of human history. But are we changing anything? We're being changed ourselves. We're being moved around and we are being changed ourselves, and we're unable to change even our own selves, let alone our families and societies and the ummah and the world. Because really, the level of certainty in those answers is not optimal. Not optimal. And eventually, when you contemplate those answers, you have to arrive to, the door of Islam. They will bring you to Islam if you really contemplate those answers very well. They'll bring you to Islam. The first question, where did we come from? Allah created us. What is the basically the antithesis of this answer? The antithesis to this answer, or what is the counter argument?
We came from monkeys.
We came from monkeys. Yeah. So the materialist, and this is really not new. There have been always atheists, but atheism was not in fashion. If you think about atheism, it's really a very feeble idea intellectually, and it does not stand the test of science or factuality or anything. But atheism in general was absent. Practically speaking, almost absent from human history, although there have been atheists all the time, throughout. Even during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. But then in the 18th century, it is with the European Renaissance that atheism became cool. This is not a science. Was there that much science in the 18th century, honestly speaking? You know, when you hear about Darwin talking about bears becoming whales, that, you know, any modern geneticist would find this quite laughable. So there was not really much science in the 18th century to attribute atheism to scientific advances. Science was still primitive. The Renaissance, science did not explode all of a sudden in the beginning of the Renaissance, but atheism started to gain ground because of emotional reasons, not scientific reasons. Because if you really examine the theory of atheism, that we just came here, we came from the monkeys, and the monkeys came from other primates, and you keep on going up or down the species and genres of creation until you get to the unicell. And the unicell came from where? Eventually, something must have come from somewhere. The unicell. So when they try to explain where the unicell came from, well, the unicell actually was made out of random biochemical reactions in a warm pond billions of years ago. Random biochemical reactions in a warm pond billions of years ago. Okay. But who made the pond? And who made those biochemical agents? But let's agree, random biochemical reactions. Actually, Fred Hoyle, who is a physicist and he is a Nobel Prize winner, said, and I repeat this quite frequently because it's quite powerful, he said, this idea is just as crazy as saying that a tornado swept through a junkyard and was able to assemble from the ingredients therein a Boeing 747. Because a tornado is not a willful agent. It's not a tornado is a tornado. It's a random, natural phenomenon. And you have some ingredients, junkyard, you have all the stuff that you need for the Boeing 747. That is, we already said that we will agree that those biochemical agents that were there in the pond, we will not ask you who made all of that. But we will start from this point. And starting from this point, another atheist who's a Nobel Prize winner finds it quite laughable, finds your explanation quite laughable. What are you talking about? Random biochemical. So anyone who's talking like this does not really understand. Did you take biology and science? Did you take the DNA? So anyone who understands the simplest DNA will find this thought quite a laughable thought. So there is not much science to back the idea of atheism. Not much science to back the idea of atheism. Contrarily, the science of today, whether it is cosmology, paleontology, physiology, archaeology, whatever sciences, biology, microbiology, all of the sciences today do actually counter the idea of atheism, including the Big Bang Theory, to the point where Anthony Flew, another Nobel Prize winner, an atheist, said that the Big Bang is quite embarrassing to every atheist. He said that confusion is good for the soul. That thing is really quite embarrassing to atheists. It is hard to explain the Big Bang Theory except within the construct or the context of creationism. So there was not much science. But the idea here is, it is rebellion against the religious figures, the clerics. It is rebellion against the so-called, in Europe, organized religion. So you know John Locke in Europe and the idea of liberalism and so on and so forth. This was basically directed against monarchy, organized religion, and the feudal system, right? So this anti-religious sentiment created the phenomenon of atheism. But is this reasonable? Is this rational? Should sane people base their beliefs and convictions on emotions, particularly emotions of resentment? If your religious leaders and figures were so hated by you, then you could have looked for other religious leaders, figures. You could have reformed your own religion, or you could have looked beyond your religion for another religion. But to react to the inequities or the corruption of some religious leaders or figures by basically saying, well, I will not believe in religion to begin with, and I will not believe in God in the first place. That's it, done. This answer for the short-sighted person may give him some comfort. He's surrounded by those clergy figures that are corrupted in his own perception, or evil, or they are, in alliances, evil alliances with kings and nobility and so on. I don't want all of this baggage. But actually, what he did is that he got God into this mix. So he does not want the clergy figures, and then I will not want organized religion, and I will not want God in the first place. So he got himself into deep trouble, because it just doesn't work this way. And up until now, humanity is still sort of toying with the idea of atheism, because it became a phenomenon, out of feelings of resentment for the religious figures. How do you basically answer the first question? Can I hear some answers, particularly from the youth? Like, how do you prove that we were created by God? That we did not just come out of chance, we did not descend. But the idea of descending from the monkeys, by the way, it doesn't really explain, it does not really explain atheism. Because we descended from the monkeys and the monkeys descended from this and that. But at the end of the day, someone must have created those creatures. So even the evolution, Darwinism gives steam to atheism, even though Darwinism in and of itself does not really explain the beginning of creation. Darwinism is about evolution, right? What about the first creatures? Darwinism does not address the issue of the beginning of creation. So Darwinism gives steam to atheism because people were just looking for anything to further convince themselves of the absence of God. But Darwin never really explained the beginning of creation. Later on, they started to talk about the random biochemical reactions and stuff like that. So, how do we answer answer the first question? You're considered youth, I guess. When does youth end, anyway?
40. When I get over 40.
Okay.
I would say you give them an option. You ask them whether you create yourself. When you created something by another creation.
You were created without a creator.
Yeah, without a creator, or somebody had created.
Yeah. So basically, he's given us the answer. The Quran answer to this question when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, أَمْ خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ أَمْ خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ. Have they been created without a creator, without a thing that created them? أَمْ هُمُ الْخَالِقُونَ. Or are they the creators of themselves? أَمْ خَلَقُوا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ بَلْ لَا يُوقِنُونَ. Or did they create the heavens and the earth? No, they have no certainty. Nay, they have no certainty. So you first ask yourself, أَمْ خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ. Have they been created without a creator? And then, you know, atheists sometimes think that this argument is a weak argument. Any sane person in his right mind will not think it's a weak argument. If I tell you that this iPhone, I think it is, you know, came here by itself. I did not even say that this iPhone made itself or was made. I am just saying that this iPhone came here by itself. You're not going to believe me. To have just come here, forget about making it. You will not believe me. So that is in the complexity of the creation of the human creation, and the magnificence of all of this creation, and the planets, and the constellations, and so on and so forth. Compared to the iPhone, this is nothing compared to all of this magnificent creation. So it is impossible that you have been created without a thing that created you. أَمْ هُمُ الْخَالِقُونَ. You know, the other option or the other possibility is that you created yourselves. So that's what Allah is telling the Quraysh. Have they been created without a creator? Or did they create themselves? أَمْ هُمُ الْخَالِقُونَ. Or are they the creators of their own selves? And that is rationally impossible. Because creation is to bring something out of nothingness into existence. Absent becomes present. The absent cannot bring himself to presence because he was absent, he was nothing. You know, at the time of his inception, he was not there. So it's quite obvious. So that's even more difficult than the first one. And the most difficult one is the third one. أَمْ خَلَقُوا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ بَلْ لَا يُوقِنُونَ. Or did they create the heavens and the earth? Because if you can't create yourself, and all of us came here and found the heavens and the earth, so they existed before us, then it is even more impossible that you created the heavens and the earth. But then, the beauty of the Quranic arguments is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know, opens doors for the human mind. It's not like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you know, it gives like a challenge to the human mind. He actually is trying to open doors. So if you can't get this down, if you can't understand this, take the other one. You know, this is very strong. 1, 2, and 3. أَمْ خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ أَمْ هُمُ الْخَالِقُونَ أَمْ خَلَقُوا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ بَلْ لَا يُوقِنُونَ. Have they been created without a creator? You know, or are they the creators of their own selves? Or did they create the heavens and the earth? No, they have no certainty. After all of this, certainly you can't, you know, find like a rebuttal to this, except to say that God created us. But after all of this, Allah switched the argument completely. أَمْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ بَلْ لَا يُوقِنُونَ أَمْ عِندَهُمْ خَزَائِنُ رَبِّكَ أَمْ هُمُ الْمُسَيْطِرُونَ. Or do you have the treasures of your Lord, control over the treasures of your Lord? Or are they in control? Are they in control? Are we in control? Who is in control? So Allah, you know, basically said, well, let's skip the creation thing. You know, you don't have answers to those questions, but let's skip those questions. But what about now? Are you in control? Someone must be in control. All of this, you know, there is something called the anthropic principle. Anthropic principle means that all of this universe has been created in perfect measure to suit humanity, to suit the humankind. So everything has been subdued, everything around us has been, so that if the sun was a little bit closer, a little bit farther, we would have not been here. So this is the anthropic principle. Allah controls all of this so that we could exist on earth. Am hum musaytirun. Are you in control? And since you're not in control, someone must be in control. And Allah sends, many messages, coded messages. What day is today?
Friday.
April 18th. Can you find the records of April 18th in the last 25 years? The weather records, climate, in the last 25 years. Do they look the same? Do they look like each other? No. Which means that if there is no willful agent controlling, if it is basically random, mechanical, they need to be the same. If all of this is automated, mechanical, the natural phenomena, nature itself is not a willful agent to change things for, Allah says, وَتَصْرِيفَ الرِّيَاحِ, and the changing of winds. So the winds come from one side this year, from the other side the other year, hot, cold, rain, not, etc. That's called irrhythmicity. Irrhythmicity versus rhythmicity versus rhythmic. It's not rhythmic. So rhythmicity, there is irrhythmicity. This irrhythmicity is a sign that behind it there is a willful agent. There is a controller that is not basically nature itself, because nature is not a willful agent. It would have been mechanical, automated, rhythmic. There would have not been any randomicity. So, just in a couple of verses, Allah answers, the arguments of the atheists. Yes, sir.
But I wonder if it's not really a rebellion against like a established religion, but rather in today's time it appears to be that God is no longer relevant because people seem to understand a lot of the unknowns that they didn't before, which they used to attribute to atheism. But now with the scientific knowledge, it appears that people understand things, coupled with the fact that people's mortality is no longer an immediate concern. When you speak to people, it appears that religion and God is no longer of relevance to them today because everything they need in their daily life has been explained already. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay. Well, that's again the so-called ujb, self-conceit, ghurur, self-deceit by the humankind. Do we really understand everything? In fact, the more you understand, the more you realize how little you understand. So when you uncode the DNA message, it doesn't show you the magnificence. It's not about knowing. It's about who made it. So when he gives you a little window into, his majesty, his miraculous creation, he opens a little window for you to behold a little bit of that magnificence, that greatness. Allah said that. سنريهم آياتنا في الآفاق وفي أنفسهم حتى يتبين لهم أنه الحق. We shall show them our signs in the horizons and in themselves until they realize that it is the truth. So it should have been the other way around. And for many people, it is the other way around. For many people, we are living the postmodernism era, which is basically people trying to go back into spirituality. So sometimes because of the stigma that, the media and certain people of certain agendas stigmatize the concept of religion itself. So all of the talk now is about meditation, mindfulness, the mind, the body. There is and they mention that the intentionally ignore and overlook, which is the spirit, the soul, the spirit and the soul, the self, which is the basically collection of knowledge, feelings, convictions, that is considered equality. That's the nafs. This collection of feelings, convictions, and knowledge is a quality of the soul, the spirit. We want to ignore this, and it becomes a matter of body and mind. And now we talk about mindfulness, and we talk about meditation, we talk about all of that, but we ignore that aspect of humanity, which is the soul. Now, if it is just about the mind, why is it that we have hateful scientists? Why is it that we have corrupted scientists and evil scientists? Why is it that some scientists work for the betterment of humanity and others work for their own agenda and their own betterment and for the destruction of humanity also? There is another dimension to the human being beyond the mind and the body, which is the soul. They do not want to accept that. They want to really basically skip over that dimension or that aspect of humanity out of embarrassment. Because if I am a scientist, I shouldn't really talk about religion. Or if I am, successful, I shouldn't talk about religion. But all of what we know now shows us the human weakness. All of what we know now, did it really help us to get in control? Are we in control? You're in control of many things, but you're really not in control. There is so much that is happening around us to prove to us every day, no, you're not in control. The tsunami, the earthquakes, the volcanoes, forget about all of this. A little virus that you can't see proves to all of us, no, you're not in control. All of the big minds and the greatest scientists, there is something called HIV, figure it out. And they could figure it out, but something else would happen. Some other virus will come around, some other disease. If you get done with viruses, there is like another group of diseases called autoimmune diseases that are actually more difficult than any infectious disease to figure out and to basically to remedy. And there will always be other groups of diseases that would come around. So we're obviously not in control. But Allah opened a little window for us to behold His greatness and wisdom. Some people consider this knowledge that would make them quite happy about their progress in science and so on, and it took them away from God when some people realized that this little window shows me how great the creation of God is, and it should make me actually more faithful. Yeah.
So I heard there's the AI, I don't know it exactly, so I'm gonna give my weak translation. If you could gather around all of you, humanity, you won't be able to create a single fly. So Rabban is essentially saying that go create a fly.
إن الذين يدعون من دون الله لا يخلقوا ذبابا ولو اجتمعوا له وإن يسلبهم الذباب شيئا لا يستنقذوه منه ضعف الطالب والمطلوب. Those that you ascribe as partners to Allah or that you invoke besides Allah, they will not create a fly, even if they gather to do so. And if a fly takes away something from them, they cannot retrieve it from the fly. Because you know what the fly does? It actually dissolves, it produces in the saliva enzymes that would dissolve whatever it eats before it picks it up. So it's already gone before it picks it up. It is already transformed because the enzymes already digested it. But at any rate, the fact that we're not in control should be more very obvious for any right-minded person. Like, very obvious, we're not in control. Then you move, the talk about, the existence of the Creator is like, certainly, we could have like a series on this, and we could, inshallah, in the future, have more discussion about this. But then you want to move to the next step. Who is the Creator? Who is the Creator? Which is an important next step, right? Because you want to find final answers, certainty that will give you comfort, serenity, peace of mind, stability. Why are people using drugs when they have all of the material enjoyments? Don't they have all of the material enjoyments? A lot of people have all of them here. I was just speaking with like a very beautiful brother, very nice brother, who converted when he was about 18. And he grew up in Massachusetts. His parents were from Harvard. He taught there and so on. So I asked him, but tell me what brought you to Islam? And he said, depression. I almost killed myself. So he was involved in everything the mainstream, not all mainstream, by the way, non-Muslims are involved in all of this, but most non-Muslims, not all of them, because there are people that are not. But he was involved in mainstream culture of young men, in their teens, everything, including drugs and everything. And then he felt that the more he gets of it, the more he gets depressed. Until one day he was almost about to kill himself, and he decided, he overdosed on alcohol, and he was laying flat in someone's bedroom, not being able to move any of his limbs. He overdosed big time on alcohol, and then he felt rock bottom, and he said to God that if you get me out of this, I will look for a different life. I will find a different life, because this life of sex and drugs and partying and all of this has got. And this is not really so peculiar or different, because there are millions of kids that are on drugs. Why? To look for happiness. That's why they take drugs, which means they don't have it. It's not there. They're looking for it, despite all of the other enjoyments. So he woke up the next day in the morning, and then he started to search. And that search led him to Islam. That is post-September 11th, by the way. But the search still led him to Islam. So the first question that we need to answer is about the presence of God, but the second question that we want to answer so that we can get to La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, because that's where we want to arrive. Second question that we need to answer is about the nature of God. And who is God? Nature of God and who is God. So God must be a willful agent, right? We talked about the arithmeticity and randomicity of events in the universe and how that's a proof on the controller being a willful controller. But also, are you willful or not? Willful. Do you know that the feelings such as love and hate and envy, these things are existent or non-existent? So someone must have brought them to existence, those very feelings. Oftentimes we think only of matter, because we're programmed to think only of matter. But those feelings, someone must have brought them to existence. Because matter will not alone explain the feelings of, competition and love and someone will say chemicals in the brain. No, the chemicals in the brain would not really explain for all of the above. Why is it that some people are very compassionate and others are not? Some people are very envious and others are not. You're not going to be able to. But forget about this. Willfulness in and of itself, being a willful agent in and of itself, not a mechanical agent, a willful one. Someone must have given you willfulness, this will. Someone must have given it to you. That entity that gave it to you must be willful, right? Because how could it make you willful when it is not willful? How to give you willfulness when it lacks willfulness? So it must be a willful agent. That's the second step. So God is a willful agent. And now He created us and we are willful beings. If you do anything purposelessly, the people will laugh at you, right? Like if I stand up now and keep on running around, you will not really, you will not think that high of me, right? So, because this is a purposeless behavior, okay? So, how could you imagine that the Creator who gave you this willfulness will create you for no purpose? Purposeless. Creation. Or create you purposelessly. So you come to the realization that the Creator is not only willful, but the Creator must also be purposeful. Purposeful. And then we come to the question of our purpose of creation. That we are here for a purpose. Now, if your father sends you on a trip to some land, some town, some city, some island for 3 years. 3 years, and then he sends you a ticket to come back without ever telling you why he sent you there. Is that reasonable? Is that like a reasonable father? Well, likely not. So God created us and we're willful beings, purposeful beings. Then God must have communicated to us the purpose of our creation. The purpose of our creation. Must have communicated to us the purpose of our creation. Then you look for religions. Then you look for this message. God must have communicated to me that, communicated to humanity the purpose of their creation. And then you come down to the breakdown of the religions in the world. And what are the 3 groups of religions that we have in the world?
Islam, Christianity,
Okay.
Polytheism.
Monotheism, and dualism. Because we have to. No.
Atheism.
No. I'm talking about the different type of grouping or categorization. You have philosophies, Eastern philosophies, and you have pagan religion, paganistic group of religions, and you have the divine religions, Abrahamic faith, whatever you would call them. So quickly, if you go through it, first of all, the Eastern philosophies, although some of the teachings in Eastern philosophies may be quite virtuous and beautiful, because God gave man the ability to discern between right and wrong to a certain extent. So thoughtful men would come up with beautiful ideas and beautiful thoughts and values. We believe in this as Muslims, التحسين والتقبيح العقلي, which is God endowed the intellect with the ability to discern between hasan, beautiful, and qabih, which is ugly. But again, at the same time, those philosophies do not really answer those questions. He did not set out to answer the questions. They were about the betterment of the human condition here on earth. They were about justice versus injustice and so on. So this is a human thought that did not really claim in the first place that this is a message from God. That this is a message from God. So you rule those out. And then you will come with the two groups that are left. That's the paganistic group of religions and the three Abrahamic faiths. Paganistic group of religions, do we need to spend time rolling out the paganistic group of religions? Hopefully we don't. You come down with three religions that are left. In Judaism, in the first place, you are Jew if you're born to a Jewish mother, right? That's what Orthodox Judaism teaches. You're not Jew unless you are born to a Jewish mother. So basically you're out. And there is, in Israel there is this huge case about, the converts, because Orthodox Judaism does not really recognize them as Jews. So this is what one is out. Then you come down to two. And then you go back to the nature of God. And there are two verses in the Quran that solve the problem of monotheism and polytheism. We have either mono or poly, considering that two is poly. Monotheism, one God, that's one model. Polytheism, more than one God, that's another model. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the answer to the other model in two verses of the Quran. One in Surah Al-Isra, in which he says, because if you have the polytheism model, those different gods are either equal in power or unequal, right? There is no other possibility. Equal, unequal. So in Surah Al-Isra, Allah answers the possibility of the unequal. He says, قُلْ لَوْ كَانَ مَعَهُ آلِهَةٌ كَمَا يَقُولُونَ إِذَا لَابْتَغَوْا إِلَى ذِي الْعَرْشِ سَبِيلًا. Subhanahu wa ta'ala عَمَّا يَقُولُونَ عُلُوًّا كَبِيرًا. So say, قُلْ لَوْ كَانَ مَعَهُ آلِهَةٌ, if there are gods beside him, كَمَا يَقُولُونَ, as they say, إِذَا لَابْتَغَوْا إِلَى ذِي الْعَرْشِ سَبِيلًا, they would have all sought the pleasure. They would have all, looked for the pleasure of the Lord of the throne, which is the strongest God. Which is the strongest. Because we're talking about unequal gods here, where one is inferior to the other. Now this inferior God cannot be called God, because this inferior God is looking for the pleasure of the superior God, so he's not God. At the end of the day, God should not be dependent on someone else. God should not be looking to please someone else. And the other possibility was answered in Surah Al-Anbiya, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, لو كان فيهما آلهة إلا الله لفسدتا فسبحان الله رب العرش عما يصفون لا يسأل عما يفعل وهم يسألون. لو كان فيهم, if there are gods beside God in them, the heavens and the earth, he would have been in total corruption. Because whenever you have equal gods, equal separate gods controlling the same dominion, that is like two pilots of completely equal authority taking over one plane, or two captains in one ship, and two presidents in one country. Does it work? Simultaneously of equal authority all the time, controlling the same dominion, it would result in corruption, chaos. So that is ruled out. So we're only left with the one possibility that this God exists, He's great and magnificent, He's willful, purposeful, and He is one. And you do not find this outside of Islam. So you will arrive at Islam, like Brother Ahmad Julian did. And then you start to grow your certainty. We don't have the time, right? We don't. Huh?
Yeah, 15 minutes.
I'm afraid that there's what time is it?
9:30.
So the issue here is you have reached this point and you're convinced of it. But this is still intellectual faith, right? All of what we were talking about here is intellectual faith. Once you connect with the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and the history of the Sahaba and the Prophet ﷺ, and once you practice your faith moves from the realm of the intellect to the realm of the spirit, the heart, the soul. It becomes an experiential faith, a faith that you taste, that you touch, that you own, that you enjoy. The other one is a faith that will give you, that will quiet your intellect, but it will not quiet your heart until you actually love it, connect with it, practice it, live it, and acquaint yourself with the major figures of it, such as the Prophet ﷺ and his companions. And then you start to touch it and enjoy it and feel it. And that will give you that certainty of the heart and that serenity of the heart. Once you arrive at this certainty, you will be able to enjoy your life. You really will be able to enjoy your life. This belief that you practice, that you enjoy, will be the anchor of your life. It will give you the stability. It will give you the stability, mental stability, spiritual stability, rejuvenate your energy at all times, give you guidance, and basically it does not prevent you from enjoying the life of this world. In Surah An-Nisa, and like I said, you cannot enjoy the life of this world until you find that certainty and you're comfortable with where the bus is going, the final destination. And I am ready, I am enjoying myself now with whatever halal enjoyments, looking out the window at the natural scenery and, singing halal songs and all of that. But I am comfortable that at the end of this journey, I will arrive at a good place, good destination, inshallah. Then you can enjoy the ride. You enjoy the ride. And whatever it is that you do, the functions, the commitments that are for the final destination, not for the bus ride itself, but the final destination. The final destination, there are commitments, right? To get to a good final destination, there are commitments. Those commitments will further help you enjoy this life. The thing that is right in the face of everybody, and everybody that has weakness in the religious commitment, they suffer with this particular one. What is it? Salah, which is the most important one. But it is recurrent. It happens 5 times a day. And you have to wake up early, and so on. But basically, that is rebooting your system. Wallahi, it is rebooting your system. Wallahi, you don't know the amount, if you truly perform the salah as prescribed, you don't know what you are enjoying. And if you're not, you don't know what you're missing. Because that is rebooting your system. Don't people, in companies, don't they have quiet time? Don't they advise meditation? 10 minutes, The Salah has the best form of meditation. It is basically to bring you back to focus. Focus around the main theme of your life, which is to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to live according to His divine will, and to hope for His pleasure, and to fear from His anger, and to connect with Him. So the Salah gives you this focus. Why is it that everything in the Salah is repeated? Subhana Rabbil Azim, Subhana Rabbil Azim, Subhana Rabbil Azim, Subhana Rabbil Azim. It's the Fatiha that we repeat every rak'ah 17 times a day. For the rest of our lives, we will be repeating one surah. Although the Quran is huge. But isn't that what they teach in meditation and mindfulness and so on? It is about the repetition, repetition of something that you're familiar with. Basically, don't they teach in meditation or all of that, take a deep breath, inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. And think of your inhalation and think of your exhalation. Isn't this something that we do naturally all the time? It's nothing new. Yes, they want you to focus, to concentrate on something that is so mundane and routine and so familiar to you. The Fatiha becomes like this. The Fatiha that you repeat 17 times a day, and Subhana Rabbil Azim, Subhana Rabbil Azim, Subhana Rabbil Azim. That is, if you invite your heart to the feast, if your heart is outside the door, and you're here with your body, you're not going to have this ability to synchronize, your three dimensions, your heart, your soul, your body, your mind. You're not going to. But the Salah is an excellent time to have all of the three dimensions simultaneously present and in sync, in harmony, and to get that chance to reboot. Now, that rebooting, by the way, defragments your system so that it frees up so much space. Some people think that, I am busy, I have so much work, and I have studies, and I have college. They don't really understand the human capacity. They don't understand the so-called neuroplasticity. If you learn 2 languages, it will be easier for you to learn a third. If you learn 6 languages, it will be much easier for you to learn a 7th. Some people will say, well, don't confuse the kid, he's just, one is enough. You want him to memorize the Quran, he will have so much to memorize, he will have this and this and that. If he memorizes the Quran, it will take up so much of his brain, as if the brain is like a little container, you can't stuff any more in it. You could take so much and then it's just completely untrue. In fact, the memorization of the Quran is your best brain exercise. Because memorization, and we always say to the brothers who only focus on memorization that you're doing the kids a great disservice. You're doing something bad. Because you shouldn't only focus on memorization. However, memorization per se is a virtue. You need good memory for your success in life, for your success in your studies. And the memorization of the Quran is your best brain exercise. And you need to exercise your brain. So the Salah will defragment, because that is rebooting, and that is basically redirecting you to the focus, to the main theme of your life, which will help free up so many of your capacity of thinking and contemplating and so on. And the beauty is that When you come to the salah, Allah told you have to wash. There's preparation. It's a big business, so you have to wash. And if you come to the masjid and you walk to the masjid, all of this, you're redirecting your thoughts so that you have a general theme. You have one big folder in which all the files fall. You have a matrix to lay in all the gems of your life. Your career, your family, your this, your that. But there has got to be a matrix to put in all of this. Otherwise, you will be so distracted and torn apart between all of them. But when the main theme is the pleasure of Allah, and that is your focus, and that is your main theme, all the rest can be placed, can be archived in order and around that main theme of your life in a very beautiful way that will not make you distracted and stressed out and overwhelmed by the engagements and the obligations and all of that, but rather everything will fall in place because there is a unifying theme of your life, and the salah helps redirect you to that unifying theme, and all of the acts of worship will help in one way or another that ultimate cause or purpose. So, what do we need to do from here on? We need to basically look for certainty, purpose for our lives, and identify the main purpose of our lives, focus on it, and once you focus on it, all the rest will fall in place, and you will be able to enjoy all of the rest. You will be able to enjoy your career and your family and your studies and even your basketball game. You will enjoy all of this because it comes with around this central theme of your life, which is to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A heart and a mind and a body that are in harmony is the ultimate happiness. When you bring them all together in harmony, synced, that is the so-called holism. You will not be whole and live a wholesome, holistic life until you bring them into sync, and you cannot bring them into sync until you connect them to the source of happiness and peace, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.